Alright, hello everyone. So, if depends on when this video goes up, but basically I am refilming a couple of my older book review videos, especially when I first started uploading book review videos to YouTube, because the lighting just wasn't the best or the audio was really bad and you just couldn't really hear what I was saying. Also, I have realized that kind of what I say off the top of my head, if I give you kind of some commentary about how I felt, if I liked the book or not, and maybe a really quick kind of summary of the book, it's, probably a little bit more interesting than me stumbling over my words all the time, really trying to sound really smart and I know exactly what I'm talking about. But these are just book recommendation videos. Like, this is just what I read, if I remember much of these, because these are from the start of 2025 actually. So this is the books I read in March, April, and May of 2025. So I might not remember all these, but like I said, I want to refilm them so you can hear me. I have done a few of these videos now, and you kind of get my style and my video style and how I discuss these books. So, we're stepping up a little bit, but basically, to start off with, also, if you see me looking over this way, I'm looking at a list of all the books that I've read and like the order that I read them in. So I'm trying to just still make it pretty accurate to the order that I read these in, but obviously I'm not going to remember off the top of my head because that would be insane. But basically, to start off March, I finished the Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children series. So I read The Conference of Birds and The Desolation of Devil's Acre, I think it's called. So these are the books, and I can't say too much about this because, as I said, these are the last two books in this series, so it would be giving spoilers away. But basically, with this whole series in general, you're following Jacob Portman, who ends up going away to this island with his grandfather, Abe, I think his name is, and he basically discovers this kind of group of people, this group of children who, some of them are like, it's hard to explain. They're basically people that have these sort of peculiar abilities, really. And they are stuck in these bodies of these children, like when they were children, basically, because they're in this loop, and it basically loops the exact same day over and over, and it's a way for them to be able to survive. It's a way for them to stay safe, and there are like dangers and monsters and kind of everything in this world that is out to kind of get them. Jacob discovers them, and it just becomes a whole thing. You basically get knowledge on the world, how they ended up being here, kind of what time period that all these children are from, how old they actually are. It's pretty fascinating. Like, it's a really good YA story, I would say. It's, like you're saying, you're following the peculiar children and their peculiar abilities. One of them can float. I think one of them's invisible. I know Miss Peregrine turns into a bird. I know that there's someone that has bees, I think, that can like come out of his mouth. The girl has like a literal mouth on the back of her neck here. I think someone floats, so she like has weighted boots. So it's really interesting. Like, I really liked the kind of peculiar stories I read At the Foot of the Cherry Tree. Now, this is by Ali Parker. I can still remember this, honestly. It's about I think he's an Australian soldier. He's over in Japan. I'm pretty sure the events of this take place after World War II. Yes, World War II. So you're following George Parker, who's an 18-year-old, and he's over there fighting for his country. And then you're following Cherry, who's a 16-year-old girl. That's kind of like her nickname. I think her name is Nobuko. I'm sorry if I'm butchering that, but you end up seeing their story of how they kind of come together, how they meet, especially after the war, and kind of how Australians are still being treated, even though they are over there like helping clean up and everything, and how young girls are being treated in Japan that are over there that are working to kind of help the wounded men or to clean up or just, everyone's kind of involved over there. So you follow Gordon and Cherry as they meet, and then you see their dynamic shift and like how he's kind of perceived and how she's perceived and how it's kind of frowned upon that they might like each other. And then it becomes a bit of a battle because Gordon moves back to Australia and he wants Cherry to come with him. So she ends up coming back to Australia and she's actually one of Australia's first war brides. And then you find out that this book is actually based on a true story and that a lady actually wrote this about her grandparents. So it has been fictionalized, but it's based on a true story. And I found that fascinating, especially how you see Cherry come to Australia and just how she's treated and how there are rules in place that like shouldn't be any Japanese women to come over here and like they're shunning the war brides and everything, and it's just really heartbreaking to see. And Gordon's like fighting so hard to get this rule, and this other Aussie soldiers that have ended up marrying Japanese women that they can bring their wives to Australia so they can start a life here. So it's so fascinating to read. Like honestly, I still remember it really like pretty clearly, even if my description said otherwise. But it's a book that I would 100% recommend, honestly. It's really, really eye-opening too. And then I read The Great Hunt, which is the second book in the Wheel of Time series by Robert Jordan. And now it's been a while since I've read book 2. I remember in the first book you get introduced to all the characters and there is a lot of scenes where a few of the 3 main boys are kind of traveling a lot and then they kind of get separated. You get introduced to Moraine and land, the water. And this book's kind of the aftermath of what happens in the first book. You're finding out a lot more about Rand, about who he is, about his power. You're finding out about how Matt and Perrin are connected to him and why they're kind of being taken on this journey as well. You're finding out more history of the world. They're also traveling more, so the world's expanding in this book. And you're also learning more about the magic system, about kind of the dark entities that are after Rand. And yeah, it's really fascinating. I think I definitely liked the second one. I feel like I like the first one more because you are seeing them go from like village to village and just surviving and them figuring it out as they go along. And then this one, because you are getting more information, it's really interesting to read about and just see how this book is going to progress through each one. Because at this point, it was overwhelming because I was only in book 2 out of 14, and now I'm up to book 6. So it was very overwhelming. I think this one might have been a little bit slower, but I still found it interesting. Like I don't know what other words to use. Like it definitely kept me wanting to continue to read this series and wanting to find out what happens and where this is going to go. Like just when you think you kind of know where the story's going, it takes a left turn, honestly. But as I said in my last one, if you want to kind of go more in depth about learning about this series, I would recommend Daniel Green's channel. I'll put a screenshot here. He's really, really good at explaining like the magic system. He does videos, like, recaps and everything about each book. So if you are like getting close to halfway through the series, like I am, you definitely need recaps to remember because there's so much going on. So yeah, honestly, I would recommend trying the Wheel of Time series if you've been curious about it, because it's really worth it when you get into it, honestly, and just it's so worth it. Like I would definitely recommend this book. And then I read Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros, and this book, I actually liked it. I know that it was a bit controversial, and like some people really hated it, some people really loved it, but I was kind of in the middle. I really, really liked it. I liked being introduced to Zayden and Violet. Zayden and Violet. I liked learning about the War College. I liked the dragon aspect. I liked kind of going on this journey with Violet to get in. I really like how she starts off, trying to go to the scribe quarter, but she ends up being kind of pushed into the writer's quadrant, and you're seeing like the family dynamic with Violet and her family. You're getting a bit more backstory about her like growing up in this world and kind of friends that she's got and new people that she meets and just surviving this whole situation because it's really intense and you just wonder how the hell she's going to survive and manage to do this. So it's definitely really interesting. Like I did like it actually, and I'm actually on to the third book now, Onyx Storm. So we'll see how we go with this series, and it's just getting really intense. But this is actually the start of April that I read this, and then next I read Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets, and then Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban. So there's these two, and I mean it's the second and third book in the Harry Potter series. Classics, if we're just talking about the books, honestly, nostalgic. You've got Harry's second and third year at Hogwarts. And yeah, I mean, everyone knows the story, so I won't really go into it too much, but absolutely love these books. Honestly, I really want to reread them again, but you are following Harry on some very intense journeys and seeing Ron and Hermione and just how Draco comes into it and more of the world and their history and a bit more. I guess there is like some politics in this, but it's probably more just suitable for YA, so it's really, really easy to understand. But I really, really love the scenes where Harry is at Hogwarts and when he's going shopping for his supplies and just how the three of them interact. So Harry, Ron, and Hermione interact, and the teachers, and just learning about Voldemort and their history and why Harry is who he is and who his parents are. And yeah, it's just really, really good. Like this book series, like I would recommend. Like honestly, not even talking about J.K. Rowling, just the books. I would recommend the books, honestly. Like they are just so nostalgic, or at least just watch the movies if if you're gonna choose one or the other. But I just love them. Like they're such classics. Who doesn't love Harry Potter? And then I read Laura, which is by Vera Caspary, I think. It's a classic. It was really short. I remember actually being shocked about the plot twist. It's kind of a murder mystery. You are following the detective in this book. Yeah, you're following. Oh, his name's Mark. It just says on the back. But yeah, he's kind of figuring out who this woman is and why she got murdered and who her murderer is, and just it was fascinating. It was actually a really, really good murder mystery story. It was short. It was straight to the point, and it kept me on the edge of my seat. And the plot twist was actually crazy. I did not see that coming, honestly. And yeah, no, it was really good. I think the only thing I have to say that I didn't like about it was some of the language. It was definitely old-fashioned. I think some of the things that were said in it were just not very nice to read, and I didn't really feel comfortable reading those. So I was like, that's great. But other than that, good book. Would recommend for like a short classic if you want to get into them. Then this is in May, so I was actually overseas at this point, and I've done a video on my channel where I pick my books from my TBR jar, and this is basically what I'd set myself to read while I was away and overseas. So starting off with The Picture of Dorian Gray by Oscar Wilde. Crazy. Honestly, if you're going to read a classic, I recommend The Picture of Dorian Gray. I also recommend The Outsiders, but this is really good to start off with. It's this the main character is so pretentious. He's so up himself. Like Dorian is just really self-centered in a way that he doesn't want to get old. He wants to stay young. He wants to continue looking young, and it kind of becomes a curse for him wanting that so badly. And it's really fascinating what Oscar Wilde kind of did with that aspect. You kind of get a few other characters' point of views too, and then you find out that Dorian also meets a woman who's in the theatre, like she's an actor, and they kind of spark something, but their relationship is kind of toxic as well. So it's really interesting to read about that dynamic. If you want to read a classic and you don't know where to start, I would start with The Picture of Dorian Gray, because I think it'll just give you that idea of how classics are written, and just getting used to that writing style and the, I guess, complexity of these characters, really. And then I read The Red Scrolls of Magic by Cassandra Clare. This is basically just following Alec and Magnus. So they're two characters out of the Shadowhunter universe, the Mortal Instrument series. Oh, there you go, the bookmark I didn't even know I had. Anyway, so like there's some of the main characters actually in this story. So I'd probably recommend reading the Mortal Instruments series before you go into the like extra books in this world, because you'll know a lot more about these characters. You're kind of seeing their relationship dynamic and just seeing what they're like when they are away from everyone else in this world, because they basically just go and travel, I think, around Europe, and they kind of become closer. Like they kind of learn a bit more about each other, like secrets are revealed, but they're also trying to figure out and solve a mystery that comes up that does have to do with this world as well. And you're introduced to a few new characters, and you're just getting a bit more about Magnus and his backstory and Alec. And I really like those two characters together. Like that was so heartbreaking. If you know, you know. But honestly, I'll probably just recommend the whole Shadowhunter world to read, because they are really good books and they are YA. So like there's no spice or anything, but there is a lot of complex characters in this story, so definitely worth a try. And they're all kind of connected in a way too, which I really like. Then I read Break No Bones by Kathy Reach. Now, every book I have read by her in this Bones series has a very similar storyline, I guess you could say, in terms of you're following Dr. Temperance Brennan, who is a forensic anthropologist. She, almost in every single book, she'll either get a phone call to say, hey, we've got XYZ, can you come check it out? Or, hey, can you go check out this case that's just come up? Or she will happen to just stumble across something herself. And basically, she gets thrust into this mystery and she tries to figure out, you know, who the person is that the bones belong, because most of the time it's about bones, and like that's what she studies. She studies bones and tries to figure out who the person is after they've been dead for a very, very long time. And then in this one, I think, she has students that are working on a prehistoric grave site, and one of them uncovers a decomposing body, and the bones are fresh and there's still like hair and different samples on them that she could get a pretty clear reading on it, obviously. And then she figures out who this person is, but she's trying to figure out what happened to them and why. So it is interesting. I feel like her books might be connected slightly, but I am reading them out of order. But also there's a small romance subplot, but you are kind of focusing on the murder mystery aspect of this story. So honestly, I love her books. Like there's only been one book where I think the language was a little bit off for me and I just didn't feel comfortable reading it, because sometimes it can be old fashioned with these books, but majority of her books have been really, really good, really fast paced and shocking. Like I'm always shocked and never know how these books are going to end. And so I'd always recommend her books, honestly. I find them at op shops, and if you're going to find any, I'd definitely recommend checking them out. And last but not least, actually, I read 12th of Never before I read Break No Bones. So this is actually like the second last book I read in May. But 12th of Never by James Patterson and Maxine Petro. This is a part of the Women's Murder Club series. At the time, I really, really liked it. It was really fast paced. You're following a bunch of women who are friends, and they kind of got similar career paths in a way that they work with kind of investigators and coppers. Like one of them is a copper, one of them's a reporter. One of them works, I think, in the labs or something, and there's another lady, but I can't quite remember what she does. This is the 12th book in the series. I would 100% recommend reading them from the first book to the last book. I would not recommend reading these out of order. It is kind of the reason why I've been put off reading any more of these books, because they're not quite confusing. It's just I definitely feel a bit lost when I read them sometimes, and I think it would have been like so much better to read these in order. But I found the first book, I think it was like 19th Christmas, in an op shop, and I found this in an op shop, so I was kind of like, I'll give them a go. But it was so fast paced. I read this book really, really quickly, so I really would recommend these books. Just don't do what I did and read them out of order, because you will just get over it very quickly, honestly. But murder mystery, they're all connected too. Like I realized at the end of this book with the huge plot twist that I would have had to read 13th like the 13th one next, to get the story and continue that storyline, because it was crazy. It was a crazy ending. I didn't really expect it. I would recommend it, but just like, don't be stupid. Don't do what I did. Don't do that. Don't read them out of order. That's a bit silly. So that is all the books that I read across March, April, and May in 2025. So I hope you like this updated version. And if you do, let me know down below. But if not, I'll see you guys next time. Bye.